Oh, Chris. Welcome.
Kia ora. Kia ora. Oha tana. Te matua o ngā tito. Gamatara hiahaha. Atu au te mihi atu kia koutou, te tēpū. Koutou ngā kaunihera. Tātou katoa, he mihi atu kia tātou katoa. Kia ora. I'm here to speak a very short notice for my brother Carl, who was unable to have his request met for speaking before 10 o'clock. We would have liked to appear alongside our iwi, would have been a good. Before we start, ko waio. I speak on behalf of our whanau. Ko tēnei te tōkano te paukōrero. We've been here since 1820. Descendants of Te Rangihiroa who signed the treaty out here at Motungarara, 4th of June, 1840. Been there ever since. When the government tried to take the island, we're the only ones who stayed to hold. We swapped all of our lands here, most of them, right up to Otaki and down, in order to be the holders of the whenua over there. At Waiorua Bay, where we currently have 30 acres, which was otherwise going to be lost to the Crown, and in Motungarara, where we regained what was already lost alongside our other lands there. I administer our properties on Motungarara and at Waiorua. I'm a trustee for the Waiorua Kapiti Trust there. I'm the leaseholder for our family, for our acres there, which is the undeveloped bush which the tourists enjoy. I'm the chairman of our Paraparaumu Māori Committee. I operate various enterprises, and I've made various attempts over the last year to be treated as a significant stakeholder, all of which has been declined through the processes the council has chosen to follow. I acknowledge my tupuni here, who are also descendants of Te Rangihiroa, and all those who have spoken before. In my heart, I support iwi Māori development. But in our tikanga, I stand as the tuakana line from Te Rangihiroa, who was the senior hereditary line of Ngāti Toa then. Through our arranged marriages, we represent the Art Confederation, the three tribes, Atiawa, Raukawa, Toa. And we're the ones that are holding as tangata whenua on the island and in this Paraparaumu Beach area. Those of you who know Carl and his efforts to support our community to be as one. We believe that the processes, my hako at the beginning talks about the non-truths will threaten to disrupt our community more than the $2 million that you hope to save. Our three iwi agreed on the values up and down this coast, things like the wairuatanga, the whakapapa, the kotahitanga come first. If we don't get those things right, nothing else follows. You're going to have the problems follow. Before the whanaungatanga, the rangatiratanga, the manakitanga that we speak about, but there's an undermining here that your staff may not be qualified to advise you on. We haven't been consulted. We need to be consulted. Is important, significant from the start, not sidelined, which is reflective of typical Crown actions over the generations. Find any Māori who would like to be the Māori for today. Would you mind holding this? Kia ora. Because council requires your legislation to have regard, for Māori, and my policy actually, if you hold that too, it's $20. Just make sure you put on a good show when I finish my kōrero, because you're a Māori. I see you're a Māori. It's good. But it's important that you actually make sure you talk to the right Māori. Otherwise you might have another ihumatao here. Right? The points my brother wanted to raise, because he is such a po in this community, and he is my elder brother, so I have to do what he says. We uphold tikanga Māori in our whānau. There's been a lack of community consultation, including our local community, our local businesses, even our own businesses. I don't subscribe to the fact that if you're not strong enough, you don't deserve to survive. We're trying to survive if you will only provide the right policies. And I would say to Glenn, my friend here, if he goes out of business because he can't do biosecurity, well, we will be doing biosecurity on our end at the island. We have Wairua camp there, and all of our biosecurity on the beach will comply with DOCS requirements. So, you know, we are a community that kotahitanga flows across all of us, and there's mistruths in this process that are misleading you to make not the best decisions. We would like to be consulted around some of those, not just a clip-on, if we're lucky, at the end. He's also concerned about our kaumātua up at the marae haven't been included. And that there's been deviations from the long-term community plan that weren't within scope or time frame. It's supposed to take longer and have more opportunity. And I know some of the points he's concerned, I agree about. You know, the fact that you need some biosecurity, or some companies need biosecurity there, is a bit different from the wider other gateway that might be better elsewhere. So we believe in the principle of options, but we don't believe have been fully investigated. And we have a significant stakeholder with the opportunity to be able to suggest those options. We think that your staff are misleading you when they say things in their reporting like there are no issues of significance. Looked at the criteria for how you judge significance, and it's a vicious circle that says, well, if we judge it as not important. Hope you don't believe I'm not important, or our whanau staying here, because that island is not a thing to be for someone's gain. We obtained it for the sustainability of our people. Don't let some people who want to keep the $20 just skew it. That's going to cause those disruptions that you are going to get. Prefer that you delay this decision so we can be included and look for a sustainable long-term solution. I want to support our iwi. I was the treaty claimant who held the claim for the island after the rushed process of the tribunal. When they did the Ngāti Toa settlements, then they clipped in Kapiti and there was no discussion about the North End. So I hold the Y2361 Treaty Waitangi claim. We are still in process to be able to hear what's been the impact of these decisions. All of that northern tip of Kapiti, the Wairua Bay, was supposed to be our parata whanau lands. We had to give up most of it just to retain the 30 acres and Motungarara. My vision was that some of our whanaunga, would have a chance to talk to what's gone on there. But instead, people have forgotten, oh no, this is just the New Zealand public. And I want to support them through the right processes to do something that works for all of us. In the official information requests, and we've written letters, we've emails, we see staff of yours making conversations about, and then DOC will open up the track that takes people from Rangatira up to Waiorua. Things like this, your specialists are not advising on because it's stuff that's not out in the open. Where we buried my dad a couple of years ago, right beside Te Rangihiroa, the hereditary line, the tourists pass, it's a wāhi tapu, there's no regard. We want to know, for example, what are the numbers going to balloon to on our private block that we lease, on our wāhi tapu, which is 2 metres from where all the tourists go. We want to be involved in those conversations. When someone's just gone on the ground, we make sure we wash our hands because there are spiritual issues involved. So we need to be kaitiaki on our own whenua. So reinforcing the point, speak to the right Māoris, and regards for all the progress that you've made. Since 30 years ago, I was the first person to write the iwi management plans for this area. For Te Atiawa with Pihi Parata. We tried to take the beach bylaw at the time, section 33. Council didn't know what to do at the time. And I still support whatever we can do. Don't appreciate being treated not as significant. Shame. In the treaty claim processes and the New Zealand Māori Council processes, I would hope that this council stands out as a shining example. I want to support the efforts, but we've just got to tweak it a wee bit, please.
Mr. Weber, you may need to...
I'll wrap up there.
Thank you.
Last thing I'll leave, my dad says the islands look after themselves. You know, as long as we can sort ourselves out without stuffing up our relationships and each other and stuff, the mana belongs to the island. Kia ora tātou katoa.
Questions? Councillor Compton.
Oh, kia ora, Chris. I just want to first acknowledge the work that both you and Carl have done, and your father and your whanau have done over numerous years for this community, and especially Carl on this issue where he's been engaging with people all around the place, and that's been hugely important. I guess my question is, do you see that there's an inconsistency in the way that council has acted in terms of, say, with the airport, we went and engaged straight with Puketapu hapu, but then we're not willing to engage with your whanau when you've got clear interests that are going to be impacted by this decision?
I don't know if it's a lack of training by your staff who can't tell the difference, and I'm offering to be able to train some of them, but or if it's more sinister than that, because, you know, we've seen the behaviours when people want an outcome, they'll just invite the friendly Maoris or whatever to get the outcome. But those sorts of things never go away. Even if you save $2 million this year, what is the cost of recovering those broken fabric of society that you've caused?
Thank you very much.
Councillor Holbrook.
Yeah, kia ora. Thank you so much for coming in today, Chris. When you talk about talking to the right Māori, we have our mandated iwi partners who we speak to. I don't know if it's out of place to ask this, and please don't answer it if it is, but have you had internal dialogue with the people that we've been talking to have that conversation about who council should be engaging with? Because, you know, as I said, you know, we've got our partnerships through Te Whakaminenga o Kapiti, and we've got our mandated iwi that we engage with through Te Puni Kōkiri, and, you know, to stray outside of that, we can jeopardise those relationships. So you can understand that from our perspective, it's a challenge, you know, and we're not trying to get it wrong, and we're not trying to talk to the wrong people, but it's a real challenge. I'm just wondering if you can comment on maybe how you see we can facilitate that so that you're not feeling excluded from the process.
Kia ora, thank you for the question. I appreciate working in local government has its challenges because it requires certain things, including considering the needs of Māori, and in the RMA, the relationship of tangata whenua with their whenua and so forth. But that doesn't say you must stick to the minimum basic requirement you can think of. And the Te Whakaminenga model that you've chosen to maintain since we started it 25 odd years ago needs tweaking, such that the last 18 months I've made 3 presentations in this room to Te Whakaminenga asking, can we have a review please, because it's not serving our needs. We've also made presentations directly to the iwi saying, your mandate is out of date, please review it. Things were turning up in our neck of the woods and no one was having a say on, but because council chose to say, oh, but this is the process, the mandated process, no one else has any channels here. And it's wrong. You can take Te Puni Kōkiri's advice, you can consult yourselves, and you can build on that. Mandated is a loaded word. Like 10 years ago, the organisation you're now dealing with was only mandated to handle fisheries in this area. But for some use of the word in legislation, oh, that means they speak for all people on all things. You need to check those mandates just as we've asked the iwi to check them too. Because we don't give our mandate for people to talk for us on the lands and the areas that we are tangata whenua of. Yes, if we go to courts and have a big battles, the hapus will come together as our traditional makeup and we'll get iwi processes in place. But the power to iwi comes from hapu and the whanau that energise those hapu. That's how we signed the treaty, and that's what our tikanga says we need to restore today. It's taken 30 years of us just to wake up. So I'm saying wake up faster.
Thank you for that answer.
Chris, can I just add to that? you talk about legislations. Our EV relationship is based on the concept of mandated authorities, which is the responsibility is held by Te Puni Kokore, right? And you talk about the ability of dynamic changes. And I know that the Waitangi Tribunal has heard the submissions, and whatever the outcome comes, that may indeed change how we view mandated authorities. Until then, our hands are tied in terms of due process. I hope you understand that.
The words mandate have only appeared in legislation, mandated organisation, recently. And it's an anomaly as far as I can track the whakapapa of that. So 10 years ago, the RMA told you you had matters of national significance, including kaitiakitanga, the relationship of Māori with their whenua. That didn't say relationship of members of this trust or that incorporated society or whatever. Māori with their whenua. I'm Māori. You can be a Māori if you like. But you need to recognise which Māori maintain a traditional relationship like we do with our whenua. Then if you want to play with words like mandate, Te Puni Kokore is a government agency. They're not the treaty partner. They do their best to advise agencies who often aren't very good at working through this minefield. And so they'll give you generic advice. And if you have strong enough relationships, you can flesh that out to what that means in your community. They can't tell you, oh no, you must go and see, because 10 years ago there was, for this iwi, there was one charitable trust, there was two runanga fighting to be the ones in charge, there was a marae committee, there's a kaumātua. So Te Puni Kokore can't say, oh, go and see that one over there. They're not the treaty partner. You need to use your relationships to work those things out and be diligent and do your reviews and have those relationships. So long answer to your short question. I don't think your hands are as tied as you think.
No, can I just, the last thing that I want to say this is, the experts in managing this line with the Waitangi Tribunal, we await what their response will be. That's all I can say. Thanks, Speaker.
Yeah, can I just finish my...
Councillor Holbrook.
And so I think this is a really interesting korero we've had today, and thank you for bringing it to our table. And just before, I know I'm not meant to make statements, but I just think it's appropriate that, you know, no matter what the outcome is today, let's move forward and, you know, have conversations. Nobody's stopping us having a conversation, you know, and this may be an opportunity to explore some of the things you've been talking about, you know, and that intense, you know, historic presence that your whanau has.
Thank you for that. I'll just, Puketapu hapu was mentioned before, and I don't know that they've got their chance to talk today, but that's an example. We support all of our community for things to be in harmony and balance, and when we see things get out of harmony and balance, that affects us as well. If, for example, due to the short time frame, two of the iwi have decided to use the urihi name, which Puketapu will probably say, well, that's been our tūranga waiwai. We need to be consulted on that as well. I mean, we want to make sure that we're supporting all of our dynamics to go correctly, even if it means delaying things and exhausting the processes available. So again, yeah, I support our Puketapu whānau that's regaining its legs here. I just hope that another mistake isn't made if it's premature to take their traditional name, you know, from before times, but I'll let them speak for themselves on that. Just take a bit of time to think a bit more. For anyone else who wants to say they've been missed out and need to have more say.
Thank you, Chris. We got a question from Martin Holiday, then James Coates.
Thank you for coming in, Chris. Sorry, it's a statement, not a question. But I just wanted to thank you for articulating, I think, what Carl does in action. And I think you've done it eloquently and beautifully. Thank you very much.
Hold up.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, your 3 minutes is up. I will accommodate you.
Kia ora, Chris, and thank you for your korero. Are you aware, just listening to what you'd said and having sat in Te Whakaminanga, that Te Atiawa have themselves done an internal review of their own organisation and also their relationship with council. And one of the things that they did identify in that review was the very thing that you have raised in terms of their liaison with hapu, the very issue that you've raised. Are you aware that they've identified that as a challenge themselves and a need for there to be more work in that area?
I'm Te Atiawa. I'm not familiar with the content of the discussions of that particular trust that you're talking about.
Okay.
Their meetings are not, necessarily open without a month's notice and selective. So there is more to Te Atiawa than the several people you're talking about. Yeah. Not to put anything down, I think there's great work going down. You can see the good work with the river. You can see a lot of organising. You can see the building of capacity amongst our people. So I put our big ups to our incorporated society, our Te Atiawa Trust, charitable trust. But we've got our Kaumātua Council, we've got our Marae Committee, we've got many other people who haven't yet had to say.
Sure. I guess I'm just acknowledging the fact that feed that you've provided has at least come through. So, kia ora.
Kia ora.
Thank you, Chris. The next speaker is Sharon Hunter.